So we got to talk about this exit tax idea coming out of some blue states. These are states that have been watching some of their wealthiest residents and businesses leave for more business-friendly, more affordable states, which just so happen to be Republican-led. And now, instead of asking why that's happening, what you're seeing is proposals aimed at trying to recoup that lost revenue by going after people on the way out. And the argument being pushed is essentially this, where if you're going to leave, then the state wants one more crack at you in order to tax your wealth and income before you go. And that's where this whole controversy comes in, because instead of making the state, more competitive for businesses so they can grow, increase revenue, and create more jobs, the approach they are taking is basically double down on taxation. And so, we got to break it all down. As always, if you do enjoy the content, go ahead and make sure you smash that thumbs up button. That's the best way to let me know. Stay locked in with the future videos. Make sure you subscribe and hit all for your notifications. Let's get into it.
A growing number of blue states are exploring an exit tax or wealth tax in order to combat revenue losses from residents fleeing to lower tax areas. At least 10 have recently explored proposals, including California, Michigan, and Washington State. The National News Desk, Jeff Harris, joining us. And we know it's not just notable high net worth people, Jeff, that are leaving these tax states, but also businesses like Chevron and Uber. Tell us more.
So major corporations, financial firms, and also people continue to relocate their headquarters or operations from high-tax states like California and New York to more business-friendly areas like Texas and Florida. The move's coming as more blue states explore these wealth and also exit taxes. Across the country, at least 10 states are now exploring or have already passed an exit or wealth tax in order to combat revenue losses from residents fleeing to lower tax areas. That includes California, New York, and Michigan.
Tally up the value of your home, your cars, your furniture, your assets, your stocks, your bonds, your art. And there is a tax on that value.
Sandra Swirsky, founder of Integer, a government relations and advocacy firm, tells the National News Desk, among the most prominent, California's proposed Billionaire Tax Act, which would impose a one-time 5% tax on the total net worth of anyone worth over $1 billion living in the state, impacting at least 200 people.
Yeah, so this is the part that I think a lot of, middle-class people, you got to be a little bit wary of, because when you hear billionaire tax, there, you might immediately think like, okay, that's not going to affect me, and so why should you care, right? And that's exactly how these people get this stuff through in the first place. You can always start at the highest level, and most, middle class, upper middle class America, they're not going to be personally threatened by it, so they may not pay attention, they may shrug it off. And if you're on the left and a Democrat, you may actually look at that as a good thing. But the real question is never just about where it starts. The real question is, where does it stop? Because once government gets comfortable creating a brand new way to go after wealth at the top, tell me how long is it before the line starts moving, right? Today it's a billionaire, tomorrow it's a millionaire. Then after that, it's people with a whole lot less than that who spent their entire lives trying to build something, right? For example, you got Zohran Mamdani and his extreme estate tax proposal that goes directly after middle-class families. And so you want to leave your family something you worked your whole life for, your little slice of the pie. Well, he wants to take some of that off the top. As you exit life, he wants to drop the threshold from 7 million down to 750,000. Now, think about how insane that is in a place like New York City, where 750K doesn't exactly make you rich, especially if most of that value is tied up in a home. And so now imagine you are a middle class, upper middle class family trying to build wealth, trying to own property, trying to leave something behind for your kids. You're not some billionaire flying around on a private jet. You're not some Wall Street titan. You just happen to own an asset in New York City where prices are sky high. And under that kind of mindset, government looks at that and says, yeah, we want to get our cut too. And that's the problem, because this stuff is always sold to the public like it's about the ultra rich, right? It's all tax the rich. But once the door is open, these people start moving the line. And by the time the everyday people realize that's happening, the definition of rich has somehow dropped low enough that now you are in the conversation too. And so, no, people don't need to just brush this off because it starts with billionaires. They should be asking the obvious question. If they're willing to go this far now, what you think is going to come next? But let's continue.
The value of these assets, of your net worth, in some cases is very easy to calculate, stocks and bonds and the like. In other cases, it's really difficult to calculate.
Also, Washington State, who just passed a 9.9% tax on incomes over $1 million. The bill's passage coming around the same time, Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz, who has an estimated net worth of over $3 billion, announced his move to Florida.
Not just move himself down to Florida, but he's moving his entire company, Starbucks, out of the state of Washington. That's huge.
JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon taking a swing at New York City officials this week, saying high taxes are causing a surge of businesses to leave the Big Apple. Quote, "The truth is that while New York City has much going for, particularly for financial companies, it also has the highest city and state corporate taxes and the highest individual income and state taxes." Thoughts Dimon echoed about a week ago.
All you have to do is look at California versus Nevada. New York versus Florida, and there's a huge exodus taking place.
Meanwhile, New York Governor Kathy Hochul acknowledging that the state's tax base has been heavily impacted by an exodus to low-tax states, urging wealthier residents to come back.
I need people who are high net worth to support the generous social programs that we want to have in our state. But maybe the first step should be go down to Palm Beach and see who you can bring back home, because our tax base has been eroded.
Now, according to the most recent IRS service data from 2022 to 2023, due to migration from blue to red states, California lost just under $12 billion and New York $9.9 billion, while Florida gained $20.5 billion and Texas $5.5 billion. Our research are also finding a massive population shift, with data showing from 2024 to 2025, California lost nearly 230,000 residents. Reporting for the National News Desk, I'm Jeff Harris.
Yeah, and so you have Kathy Hochul, the New York governor, who was out here begging businesses and wealthy residents, as you heard, to return to New York. But why would they? Why would they want to come back just to be taxed even more from wherever they decided to go in order to avoid getting taxed to death in the first place? Right? And so now Hochul's trying to walk this tightrope in New York because she endorsed Zohran Mamdani, and he wants to push all these far-left policies. He has plenty of supporters who want him to tax corporations, redistribute wealth, and create more government programs by increasing taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers. But Hochul really does not want to go that far right now because she's trying to win a re-election. And so now she ends up getting heckled by some of the same people who clearly voted for Mamdani. Check it out.
We still have to get to the funding of a lot of programs. That's the next phase of the budget, which I hope to expedite once we get agreement on policies like changing the laws related to auto insurance, dealing with let them build so we can build more housing. My other priorities, we're working on those right now, but certainly we have had conversations with the mayor and his team on what some accommodation on the cost of busing looks like.
There are some numbers suggesting that they will be open to a 2027 deadline to enact regulations that were technically due in 2024 for the CLCPA. Is that something you're considering, and how close are you to coming to an agreement with lawmakers on that particular sticky subject?
We're having a lot of conversations. We talked about it again this morning. I think we'll get to the right place. This is not where I wanted to be. I would love to be the governor who says we got it done.
By Donald Trump and not taxing the rich. Why are you blocking our climate legislation?
I would say my goal was to be able to meet these objectives. Really important to me to meet these objectives. I believe in those objectives. But I also have to deal with the realities of the situation, which I've laid out before. So my friends follow me everywhere. So, Rebecca, we can talk offline, but we're looking at, I think, a lot more members.
Hey, Rose, can you shut up? The reporters are trying to ask questions.
Everybody. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, I appreciate you covering this important topic because But people may not realize everything I'm doing is focused on trying to put more money back in their pockets to make life more affordable in New York. And I will be unrelenting in that quest. So, all right, thanks, everybody. No. Everybody has a right to protest. You know, I have been in my fair share of protests. They have a right to do what they're doing here today. That's totally fine with me. I know what I have to do on behalf of 20 million New Yorkers who expect me to deliver. That one's offensive. All right, take care, everybody.
Yeah, so they literally heckled her right up off that stage there. But let's be honest, what exactly did she think was going to happen? The second she decided to back Mom Donnie, she should have known exactly the kind of people she was getting in bed with. What you're seeing in these blue states is not really complicated. People are leaving because the cost of living is out of control. Taxes already high. Regulations make it harder to do business. And in a lot of these cities, it feels like they are paying more and getting less in return. That's the real issue. People are not fleeing because these states are just too successful. They're too successful. Let me get out of here. They're leaving because the math is no longer making sense. And instead of Democrats looking at that and saying, maybe we should make these states more affordable, make them more business friendly. Maybe we should stop punishing the people who are still here trying to build something. No, the answer from a lot of these Democrats is the exact opposite, right? The answer is more taxes, more redistribution, and more pressure on the very people already thinking about leaving. And so when you endorse Zoran Mamdani, now you got to be a part of the crew too. You have to be all in on the socialist train ride also, because he does not look at New York and think, how do we make this place easy to afford, easy to invest in, easy to grow in? No, his answer's been free stuff, bigger government, and higher taxes on the people he thinks can afford to carry everyone else. And that sounds great to the people out there chanting tax the rich, until you realize those are the exact kind of ideas that make more people want to leave in the first place. And what makes Mamdani especially interesting, when you really think about it, is the contradiction. When he wants Albany to fund his programs, his argument is basically New York City pays more into the system. New York City deserves more back. In other words, if you contribute more, you should get more. Very simple concept, very basic logic of his. But the second you apply that same logic to wealthy people in New York City, suddenly it disappears. Then it becomes, nah, you know what? You make more, you need to pay more. Subsidize more. You shouldn't really be expecting more back. You should expect less back. And so he understands the argument perfectly. He does. When New York City is asking for money from somebody else, he just does not like the same argument when rich taxpayers use it against him. But those are my thoughts on the update. Now let me hear from you. Drop your comments down below. As always, you enjoy the content, smash that thumbs up, subscribe for more in the future. And as always, until next time.